Hi, I'm going to share a story of personal experience. This is covering the last 15 years of my life in just about 15 minutes. It is a story of triumph, and as many great stories of triumph go, it starts with a bit of tragedy. When I was 22, I was incredibly physical. My identity was completely wrapped in my physicality. I was a stuntman, I would go dancing all night, hiking, have wild group sex, and I was a martial arts instructor. And I taught 150 people a week from the ages of 3 to 65, and I was damn good at what I did. Unfortunately, I was also very good at being critical and extremely self-judgmental. So every day, I could have the most amazing day teaching, make one mistake at the end, and walk home feeling like I was absolute shit. I didn't do anything right, and I carried that with me continuously. That mentality allowed me to teach for somebody who was the abusive father that I never had. As I collected injuries along the way, the expectation of my performance never went down. If one leg was hurt, kick with the other. If both legs were hurt, then use your hands. And I pushed on as hard as I could. I reached a point where I was asked to do a demonstration style kick, which was, it's called a tornado kick. Allow me to describe it for you. It's a jump spinning 540 degree kick, so you are doing 1.5 rotations in the air, where you land on the same foot you kick with. It's so complex that I'm sure a lot of you are going to have a hard time just imagining it. It's not the important part. The important part is I did 50 of them one day, and the next day I came in and I did most of one. In the middle of the rotation, I felt something tear, and I hit the ground. Turns out that I tore my adductor muscle right in my inner thigh. Now, most people would see a doctor, go get medical care for this. Unfortunately, growing up, I grew up in an abusive household, and the type of abuse I faced was neglect. Often I was neglected to be fed, and I was absolutely neglected to be treated with medical care. In fact, if I got hurt for any reason, it was often made for me to feel guilty and feel bad for what happened. Many injuries I had, I wouldn't even explain to my parents because I was already going to be hurt. Why get yelled at for it on top? So I just did what I always did and tried to walk it off. After a little while, I wasn't able to, and I left, and I collapsed. Not for a day, but for 6 months. The first month, I needed assistance going to the bathroom. To give an example, my girlfriend at the time was laying in bed with me, and I felt a searing pain on my back, and I asked her to take her hand off my back, to which she confusingly replied, "I'm just breathing on you." So after about 6 months, I started seeing doctors, which ended up being a 10-year journey, over 20 healthcare professionals from chiropractors to orthopedic surgeons, over a dozen MRIs and CT scans later, and $150,000 out of pocket, since I was hit with a pre-existing condition. I ended up meeting somebody, an MRI tech, who actually helped me identify it. We had about 20 minutes before the exam. He asked me to wait, and interestingly enough, 10 years of being sidelined finally taught me patience. So as I sat there for 20 minutes and had a conversation with him, I actually told him what happened and put my finger directly on the injury, which was deep in my pelvis. And he told me that the MRI was for somewhere else. And once again, they were ready to misdiagnose me, and he helped me to identify it. During that 10 years, I picked up the time-honored tradition of selling pot from my living room to get by, and I became a couch therapist. I sat there day in and day out listening to people, their problems, family, relationships, jobs, pretty much everything. And I started to be able to hear not just what they were saying, but what they were meaning, what their real challenges were, and why some of these issues kept coming up time and time again, even though they thought they dealt with it. Occasionally I gave advice, but mostly I listened, and I clocked well over 10,000 hours. So once my injury was fixed, and I went, hey, I'm better. I can walk again. I can be physical. Which was a little premature. I had 2 other massive injuries that took another 5 years to identify. But the important part is I looked at what was going on in my life, and because I was full of guilt for being hurt, full of shame for needing help, and full of anger at myself for putting myself in this position, the life I had created around it was terrible. I hated everything. So I dedicated to change every piece. Who I associated with, what I did for a living, where I lived, what I wore, how I ate. There was nothing that was sacred to change. And within that, I started taking communication courses, learning how to speak, learning sales, learning NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It's a form of communication that is so powerful, both the CIA and the Italian mob use it. More so for nefarious purposes. I was learning it on the healing side, and through it I was able to let go of 20 years of anger in one day. So what I found is that I now had the listening skills and the communication skills to speak into people's listening. I could take my lifetime of pain, my lead, and help transmute it into other people's gold, to take years off of their trauma. The most satisfying thing I've ever done is watch somebody's face when 20 years of pain melts away and they see the possibilities of what goes past that. So from there, it's become a journey about healing people. I've been able to take all of this and make it good. And I can honestly say I'm not grateful for the experience of being in near constant pain, but I'm absolutely grateful to be the person that I am today, and that is at a direct result of the pain I experienced. Someone has told me, something they like to say is, you can change anything for the better in an instant. I like to take the pressure off. Sometimes it takes 30 years to get to that instant, but it can all be changed. And I'd really like to say that there's a lot of times in life where you get knocked down and you get back up. It may happen a dozen times, and you start to question why. What's the purpose? Is it worth keeping going? And I asked myself that a lot during my journey. There were days where I said, screw it, I'm ready to give up. And then I got up the next day and said, well, this sucks so much, I have to keep moving. And I did. And at this point, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life now as a result of the work I did. In fact, just in the last few months, I was looking at my life still harboring guilt because I desire intimacy, physical connection, and when I can't have something, I make myself not want it. For example, with food, when I couldn't have it as a kid, I made myself not want it and became anorexic for a long time. With intimacy, I said, I can't have it, so I don't want it. It's not that important. And really, I was just lying to myself to get by. And I found even just 3 months ago in my journey saying, well, I'm still pretty fucked up. Clearly, I'm still using a cane. And I'm going to be fucked up tomorrow. And this isn't a downer, it's an acceptance. Because I looked at it and said, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. So do I want to keep harboring this, or do I want to move forward anyway? And quite frankly, that's what led me to come to Burning Man. A ticket came up a month ago. And I said, I can be in pain at home, or I can be in pain on the playa and see what the hell happens. And I've had the most immaculate week. I found a camp that I got a full body massage. Another camp that helped me work out some stretching, so I've been able to keep moving. I've listened to workshops and people on this very stage that have helped me to break through the guilt of feeling like I can't be enough when I clearly can be. I've gone through so much to become who I am that I'm pretty fucking awesome. And it only took me most of my life to realize that. Transformation can happen at any point, and if at any point I'd really like to say that you feel lost or unsure, and you've been looking for answers and you don't know, that's okay. Try looking for different questions, because maybe a different question will help you get the answer that you seek. I found happiness on the other side of hell. So to walk through it, that's okay, that's part of life. But as long as you keep pushing, the potential to do so much more and be so much more. I thought I was going to be a martial arts instructor. It turns out, I'm a pretty fucking awesome healer. So I hope all of you have had an amazing burn, that everything is perfect in your life, and if it's not, that's okay. Because the skills you get from trying to overcome it are going to be the things that make you stronger and make you happier. Thank you so very much.
Woohoo!